Hello guys, this is teacher Leo. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're fine in your house. So today we're gonna start with a little review with the present continuous and the simple present, right? Do you remember that the last unit we learned the simple present, and today we're gonna make a little review about it and how you can identify when we are using present continuous and simple present, right? So please go to your book at on page number 66, and we're gonna start now. All right, guys. Now, how you can see in page 66, we have the grammar box, right? So it says the present continuous and the simple present tense, right? So uh, the last class that you already received, we saw the simple, no, sorry, the present continuous, right? So do you remember that we use present continuous for actions in progress or future plans, right? For example, we have here that says, I'm making dinner right now, right? Do you remember that when we are talking about present continuous, we use the subject plus the verb to be plus the verb with ing, right? So also, we have here an example that says they are swimming at the pool in the park, or he is meeting his friends for lunch tomorrow, or something like that, right? So we use the simple present tense for frequency, habits, and routines, right? So in this case, do you remember that we use, or the structure, the simple present is the subject plus the verb in base form, for example, make, eat, play, or something like that. Also, we use auxiliary verbs like do or does. Do you remember that when we are talking about um, I, you, we, and they, we use do, and we are talking about he, she, and it, we use does, right? Plus the verb in the base form. Okay, so we have here some examples that says I make dinner at least twice a week. They usually swim at the pool on Thursday, or he hardly ever meets his friends for dinner, right? So now in the next picture in this of this video, I'm going to explain you again one by one, right? So please now pay attention um, for this, right? All right, guys. So now we're gonna start with the present continuous. So do you remember the structure for present continuous is the subject plus the verb to be and the verb with ing, right? So for example, we have here the baby is walking, right? So the present continuous is with the verb with the ing, right? In this case, walking. Are you crying? I'm not lying, right? So here we have an example for affirmative, negative, and interrogative, right? So remember the subject or the pronouns that we have are I, you, he, she, and it, we, you, and they, right? So we use am for I, are for you, we, and they, and is for he, she, and it, right? So for example, here for affirmative, we have I am playing, you are playing, she is playing, we are playing, and they are playing, right? So for negative, we use not, right? So I'm not playing, you aren't playing, he, she, or it isn't playing, we aren't playing, you aren't playing again, and they are playing, right? And now for interrogative, we have we need to change the verb to be for the beginning and later the pronoun, right? For example, am I playing? Are you playing? Is she playing? Are we playing? Or are they playing? Right? So now remember that don't use the present continuous with frequency adverbs. For example, she is never playing tennis, right? This is incorrect, right? In this case, we can say she don't play, uh, sorry, she isn't playing tennis, right? Or in this case, we use frequency verbs. Do you remember that it is for simple present tense? In this case, it could be she never played tennis, right? This is the correct form. Now, also remember that don't use the present continuous with have, want, need, or like. For example, she is leaking the gym, or she's having, or she's needing, right? This is incorrect, right? So now we're gonna um, we're gonna see the simple present tense, right? So now for this simple present, we have this, or we use the simple present for frequency, habits, or routines, right? So in this case, we use um, the subject or the pronoun plus the verb and plus the object, right? Or the predicate, right? In this case, um, for example, we have here that says his wife sets the table, or I don't like fruits, or do we love flying kites, or she feels good, right? So in the last example that says she feels good, do you remember that when we are talking about affirmative statements for simple present, we add an S to the end of the verb, right? So uh, it is just for the verbs like he, she, and it, right? Now, when we are talking about I, you, they, and we use the verb just in the base form, right? So here we have a frequency adverbs, right? So the frequency adverbs, in this case, are that or indicate the frequency that we do many things. For example, we say always when we are talking about the things that we do, for example, every day or something like that. For example, it could be like I always eat my breakfast at 7 a.m., for example. Or also we have usually, uh, generally, often, sometimes, occasionally, seldom, rarely, and never, right? Never is, for example, that when we are talking about some things that we uh, don't do, right? For example, oh, I never watch horror movies, for example, or I never watch love movies or something like that, right? Um for example, another example, it could be like rarely. In this case, it could be I rarely eat hamburgers, for example, or also for sometimes. In this case, it could be I eat, or for let me think about it. It could be, for example, I sometimes eat pizza at night, for example, right? So this is for for frequency adverbs, right? Also, we have here an examples that for negative statements. In this case, you remember that when we are talking about negative statements for simple present, we use doesn't or don't, right? When we use doesn't, or the auxiliary verb does is for he, she, and it. Later we write the verb in the base form. You don't have to add an s at the end of the verb. For example, here we have my son doesn't make his bed. Now for questions, uh, we change the auxiliary verb for the beginning, later the subject, later the verb in base form, and the complement, right? For example, in this case is, does she have black hair? Also, we have here, they speak English very well, and you don't love me, right? In this case, we use do in negative, that is don't, for because the subject is you, right? Please don't forget it. Now, we're gonna start with the new lesson, that is the the past of be. So please pay attention. All right, guys, this is the last part of the class. So now please go to your page 76, and we have the past tense of be, right? So what is the past tense of be? Yeah, in this case, is the past of the verb be. In this case, we have was and were, right? So in this case, how you can see, uh, we use was, that is for affirmative. We use for I, he, she, and it, right? And we use were for we, you, and they, right? So the affirmative part is was and were. Now the negative for was is wasn't, and for were is weren't, right? That is the same that if we can say was not or were not, right? So in this case, uh, we have some examples for questions. Now for questions, we can use, in this case, was and were for in the beginning. Later we use the subject or the pronoun and the rest of the statement, right? So here we have um, a little bit um, another examples with information questions, right? For example, where was your brother yesterday? When were you in Seoul? Who was with you on the train? Or who were your parents with? Or how was your food at the airport? Or how were the activities on the cruise? Or how long was the tour? Or how long were you on the bus, right? So there are different forms that you can use the past tense of be. Now here we have some examples for affirmative. We have was, for example, I was, you were, he was, she was, he was, we were, you were, and they were, right? Now for negative, we have I wasn't, you weren't, he wasn't, she wasn't, it wasn't, you weren't, we weren't, and they weren't. Now, for interrogative, we have was I, uh, were you, was he, was she, was it, um, were we, and were they. Now, for example, for affirmative statement using was, I can tell you I was happy, I was sad, I was hungry, or something like that, right? Now, we have he wasn't thirsty, you were at school, was she rich, or they were in noise, or were they happy, or something like that. Now, for example, I can tell you that uh, where you pay attention, or for example, I can tell you I was tired, but now I feel well, right? Or also, I can tell you that I was hungry, but I ate a sandwich, for example, right? So this is very important, right? That you can understand this part, and yet you don't have to forget that we use was for I, he, she, and it, and we use were for you, we, and they, right? This is for past of be. We don't have to use, for example, this is incorrect if you say uh, I am was happy. No, guys, you don't have to use uh, am, are, or is, because this is in present. This is for present, right? We use was and were for the past, and this is really easy, but you need to really understand this part. So uh, now for the answers for this is, for example, if I tell you was your flight late, you can tell me yes it was or not it wasn't, right? So this is all for today. I hope that you understand the class. uh, if you have any questions, please don't be hesitate to write us, because we are more than glad to help you with your questions. So see you next time, guys. Bye.